For more on the race for a vaccine, we're joined by Jeffrey Schlegelmilch. He's director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at Columbia University's Earth Institute. Jeff, let me get your take on today's news about Pfizer.
Well, it's certainly welcome news, albeit preliminary news. You know, it's not fully through the phase 3 trial, but this preliminary data does suggest a high rate of efficacy of the vaccine, as well as really with no safety issues of note. So it's certainly the kind of news that we want, and also recognizing that there are other vaccines in development. It does look like we're continuing down this trajectory of having a number of different vaccines available in the coming months and the coming year. But, you know, again, with all of the cautions and caveats that even Pfizer admits that this number may go down in terms of efficacy, but if these numbers hold even close to this, it'll be a very significant impact on the start of an exit strategy to this pandemic.
Yeah, to your point, it's my understanding the flu vaccines are not anywhere near 90%, so that would be great if it is 90%. Of course, as you said, this is all preliminary. How quickly can we expect this to be distributed if it goes through these necessary phases and finds out to be that is the case?
So that's really the even bigger question. Is you get a vaccine that's working, you then have to manufacture it, and some of the numbers that they've put out there in the hundreds of millions and potentially as many as 1 billion doses or more over the next year. But that's still going to require a lot more than that to reach everyone. This is also a two-dose vaccine, needs to be shipped at very cold temperatures. So a lot of the challenges in distributing vaccines come after you manufacture them. So there's certainly a number of steps between getting it out of the laboratory and into someone's arm, but it is an important first step.
If I'm with another drug company right now working on a vaccine, what does this mean for me? Because we have so many companies right now racing to create a vaccine.
Yeah, I think that there's plenty of need for vaccine. There's plenty of need throughout the world. There's certainly a little bit of, you know, who's going to be the first one out of the gate. But the reality is that with a lot of vaccines that we see, even the seasonal influenza vaccine, is that we really do rely on there being multiple vaccines. Some people, it may be more effective in some people than others, and other approaches may be more effective. This is a two-dose vaccine. There may be others that are shown as more effective after one. So it's important that we have a strong portfolio, a selection of vaccines, as well as the ability to manufacture lots of multiple vaccines, so we have as much covered as we possibly can.
Jeffrey, you'd have to be living in a cave if you didn't know this already, but there was this election in this country which has been dragging on for forever. We have a current president refusing to concede. You have a transition being hung up by the GSA. You have dueling coronavirus teams, Biden announcing his, and yet the task force led by Vice President Mike Pence meeting today. We all knew that all of this was going to be dicey and unprecedented. You just spelled out a number of the issues ahead, but how much of all of this is going to factor into this, and how much of a problem is that going to be?
Well, I think it really depends on the Trump administration at this point. He lost the election and now needs to concede and support an orderly transition of government. And the sooner that happens, the more that these complexities, the more that these handoffs can be planned out. And as we just talked about, we're just scratching the surface on some of these complexities. There are strong professionals on both the Mike Pence's team as well as on Biden's coronavirus advisory board, and they can do some good work in terms of transitioning this and getting this momentum going. But it can't happen unless Trump concedes and unless the administration really starts to pave the way for an orderly transition.
And Jeffrey, I have to ask you before we let you go, one of the big concerns out there, and you've heard it, is that the world needs this vaccine, but that some developing countries might end up getting shortchanged. What are your concerns there, or do you?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly do have concerns. A lot of the manufacturers have made it a point to say that there's going to be equity in distribution and have made agreements with various different groups to try to get there. But there are also some logistical challenges, cold storage, the shipping this under very cold temperatures and getting it to different places around the globe, in addition to some of the more economic folks buying it up in the beginning. So it's something we need to keep an eye on. I think it's something the vaccine manufacturers are sensitive to, the optics if nothing else. But there are challenges in getting it outside of the industrialized world that still need to be worked through.
Yeah, we'll be watching all of this as it takes place over the months to come. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.